Back to what I was saying, cut me off dealing with these fucking devils, man. You get Jeremiah 49 and 12. It says, "For thus saith the Lord, behold, they whose judgment was not to drink of the cup have surely a drinking of the cup, man." That's what was the cup? That cup of suffering. We putting on Yahweh Shah in this modern day Roman Empire spirit. The Lord recognizes that spirit. You know, he recognizes those that are his, man. He identified with oppression. Because our people, we was oppressed in these various different captivities, even by our own people. It says, "And art thou he that shall altogether go unpunished." He's talking to Esau, Edom, man. It's the Heavenly Father speaking. It says, "Thou shalt not go unpunished, but thou shalt surely drink of it." So do you know, you Edomites, man, you're going into captivity. You're gonna be put into slavery. We're gonna sell your sons and daughters. You're gonna beat your fucking ass into captivity. And you're not gonna ever rise up again. Because what you've done is you've taken, what was an inch, and you've taken 100 motherfucking thousand goddamn miles with it of evil. And you even done so to even try to set yourself up on as the Most High. And like I said, the Lord shall look down and laugh at you. You just really laugh at you devils, man. It says, "For I have sworn by myself, saith the Lord Yahweh, the Adawan, Adawanaya Yahweh." It says, "Basra shall become a desolation and a reproach, a waste, and a curse." And this is what you're seeing. You're seeing this pretty much the infrastructure of these corporations. The skirt being pulled away out of these off. These devils, man. The Lord's lifting up that skirt, man. He's showing from the music industry to the folly. Just the philosophies, and just the people over there in the Holy Land right now. They're being exposed for not even being the true people. You can't even do an identity test over there. So they're being exposed for not even being the true people. They're being exposed as being tyrants and evil, wicked rulers. There, it says that Basra should become a desolation and a reproach, man. Who's Basra? Esau, Edom, and a curse. So you're gonna face a certain curse, the same curses that we went into. You are gonna get the curses, man. And that goes for you heathen too, because you joined hand in hand with the wicked, man. The Lord tells you that. King David even tells you that. Y'all joined hand in hand to pretty much destroy the people, the nation of the Lord's chosen people. And it says, "And all the cities thereof shall be perpetual waste. I have heard a rumor from the Lord Yahweh, an ambassador is sent unto the heathen, saying, Gather together and come against her, and rise up to battle." It says, "For lo, I will make thee small among the heathen, and despised among men." And see this, you read that in the NLT, he's talking about Esau, Edom, man. Other nations starting to spew. To see the shameful spewings going on. That's been going on lately. And this is why they're gonna come after us, man. Really, I think that Eve is just the devil's lapdog. Anytime we start, doing right and bettering ourselves, and getting in knowledge, who's the first motherfuckers to come and say, "Hey, you ain't doing good enough"? Eve, because she's used psychologically to psychologically keep Jake in that oppressed state, man. So-called black woman. Anyways, a lot of you don't fucking like that. Me personally, I don't give a fuck, man, because it's true. It's been rooted since the fucking 60s. I don't need a man. Niggas this, then niggas that. Well, maybe it's just the motherfuckers that you deal with, because Esau sets up niggas too. A lot of people that look like us ain't us, man. Anyways, the music industry has historically used predatory contract terms to exploit black artists, denying them fair compensation and ownership of their work, rooted in racist practices developed since the beginning of the recording industry. These agreements have systematically stripped black creators of wealth and control. A pattern that persists today in both traditional and digital contexts, man. And see, this is the thing. You sign those contracts, when a lot of Jake don't read those contracts. They just go in and they thinking that they gonna get a piece of the pie. Really, they just gave you a small piece of the pie so you can live a little better life, but you really getting pocket change compared to what they getting off of you, you know. And that's not even just in the music industry. That's in everyday life, man. You're not going unless you're willing to sell out. In these different Masonic lodges and these groups and these boulets and all these different organizations that Jake has pretty much taken root in with wickedness, man. You're not gonna reach the level that you really want to reach, man. And if you do, you best believe, man, you're gonna be faced with a lot of fucking backlash, man. Like they are gonna try to weed you out of the club because it's a secret social club in this bitch, man. And it's a club that you really shouldn't want to be a part of anyways. All the rituals and you hear about the rituals and the things that they do that these people are involved in, the things they like to do, man. Even dealing with little children, these people are fucking sick, man. It's echoes of slavery. It says scholars and activists note that the systematic exploitation of musicians reflects patterns during and after slavery, man. And how does that happen? When you read about them different slave balls, for example, which I'm not gonna get into it here. What did they have during them slave balls? They had Jake dancing and partying and certain Jakes that they kept out of certain balls because they wanted to make a separation between who was going to really analyze that who's going to be loyal to the devil and his way and his system. We'll give you the nicer things and let you stay in the house in the cabins and give you the finer things of like the be and then the ones that was in the field was treated more harshly. They were called ugly, which they weren't because you was having babies by them. They was raping them and robbing them and this and that. But at the end of the day, these are all this is all systematically done, and it's rooted in this place. It's rooted in this bitch, man. It's a spiritual thing that's rooted in this place known as Mystery Babylon the Great, America, right? And this is what I want to get as well, man, before I go into the next point. Because, end of the day, you devils have a large tab to pay, man. It's the second Esdras, and now you're going to pay it back. You're going to pay it back through captivity. The second Esdras 16 and 22, for many of them that dwell upon the earth shall perish of famine. And this is what the Lord, he's going to see. These are the things that I told you that he uses those. He presents a problem. He's setting up the stage. You see Trump setting the stage up for a problem. He's going to present a solution, which is going to be that chip. You've been on a universal basic income. You've been able to be checked and then tracked. And then, after that, you pretty much salvation for you is over with. Just like he did during the Social Security Act after, World War I. That was a problem. The Great Depression. Families were suffering, and he implemented the welfare system. But who got the lower end of the stick on that every time? You did, as I explained. Then the Social Security Act, also, so you can be tracked. If so, those people that denied being a part of the Social Security Act, a lot of them were considered immigrants and this and that. They were cast out. They had to go back to their own country. Even though they use these people in these factories and into these corporations, as you see it in movies, even from China and Asia. A lot of them was brought over here to help out American corporations and factories get to booming like they were. You see what I'm saying? So, yeah, they benefited off of the suffering of our people in major ways, man, wherever we've been scattered. It says, for many of them that dwell upon the earth shall perish of famine, and the other, it says, that escape of hunger shall the sword destroy. It says, and the dead shall be cast as dung, and there shall no man buy. They said, there shall no man comfort them, for the earth shall be wasted, and the city shall be thrown down. And see, this system of money here, like I said, it's a consumer-based economy. So they captivated you in the mind first and foremost. That's why the Lord, in Romans, Paul is telling you renewing of your mind in this system, man. Because where the mind goes, the body's going to follow. So they captivated you by this system of oppression. Now they want to, through money, obviously, through money, through fads and having the nicest clothes and wanting to be seen and, the glitz and the glamours that America, promotes herself in, man. Let's get it real quick. Jeremiah 49. Jeremiah 49 is Jeremiah, it's Isaiah 48, 47. Here's Isaiah 47. God. It's what the Lord's telling, because the Lord, Heavenly Father looks at, he looks at the nation as women. Remember we just read in Jeremiah, he's talking to who's Basra? He's talking to Esau, Edom. These are the so-called white man, the so-called devil. Not the so-called devil, the devil that the Bible speaks of, the deceiver. Who will be in rulership in the Lord's return. Who has rulership over the earth today? Who's ruling with the sword today? Who set up himself through wars, through corporations, by war? These different private corporations funded by these Rothschilds, by war. It says, "Come, virgin daughter of Babylon, sit in the dust, for your days of sitting on the throne have ended. O daughter of Babylonia, never again will you be a lovely princess, tender and delicate." And tender and delicate, these different, trinkets, not trinkets, delicacies out there, McDonald's, and, we want to love everybody, and we are family spirit with everybody. Nah, man, we ain't supposed to be in that spirit. We're supposed to depart from the world. The world will teach you that, but the Lord will show you that, so he tells you that in Babylon. I mean, in Babylon, in Revelations. He said, those that think that, they're arrogantly winning and this and that from your pastors. He's talking to the different churches. That's really addressing the Israelites. You think you're winning because you got money. You think you're helping people because you're using this government, using this system, but you haven't really fully freed the people's spirit and mind. So you still have, like you say, thou art naked and bare. You don't realize it because, you captivated. When you getting money in this bitch, I'm gonna keep calling America this bitch. When you getting money here, you winning, you're not really thinking about the truth of the matter because you getting fed, you're getting your fishes, you're getting your delicacies of Egypt. But when the judgment comes, you're gonna think about it and it's gonna be too late. It says, "Take the heavy millstones and grind the flour, remove your veil and strip off your robe, expose yourself in public view." And that's what pretty much they doing. They showing their ass, showing their true colors like the Lord wants them to do. It says, "You will be naked and burdened with shame. I will take vengeance against you without pity. O Redeemer, whose name is Lord of heaven's armies, Yahweh, by Hashem Yahushua, is the Holy One of Yasharallah." So, "O beautiful Babylon, sit now in darkness and silence. Never again will you be known as a queen of kingdoms," man. And see, these different queens, there's different philosophy and all that virgin birth shit. All of that is rooted in, these Edomites philosophies, this changing up of the doctrine, the doctrine of devils as, seducing spirits, the name doctrine of understanding who Yahushua's true name, the hell doctrine, and I understand that the hell doctrine, our people never followed that. Those were concepts even from dating back to Serapis Christus, man. So understanding how these devils have pretty much always taken our philosophy, and that dates back to Tammuz. You read about Tammuz, our people, creating themselves idols, and then these devils taking these different idols and these different philosophies from not even just us, from these other nations, and pretty much setting themselves up as the ultimate nation, pretty much stealing everybody else. But who helped them do that? The Lord set this man up like that. He took the basis of men and made this man a powerhouse. Now he got private jets. He got he got Eve, fiending to suck his dick. But at the end of the day, the Lord is the one who empowered this man, not the other way around. That's why I always say, man, I don't want to give this devil too much credit for what the Lord has allowed him to do. It says, while private corporations rarely engage in direct declared warfare against one another like states, they have historically been deeply involved in other conflicts like territorial control and resources. So yeah, we read that already. These different. We read that already. Got into that. Just making sure I hit all the points I wanted to hit, man. Yeah, and when you get into them, there's more corporations than these, but these are major corporations that helped out in insurance companies. Help benefit these companies too, or corporations too, and setting up their defenses and these different, what have you, territories of land where they were warring for it. You know, they present themselves to the people as, you know, we kind, nice, want to help out, this and that. And then, you know, if the people reject, and then they start, setting up their own territory, warring against these people, even, setting up proxies and, setting up false treaties. They did it with the Native Americans, the false treaties out there to get them to war with each other, you know, just setting up pseudoscience. And that's all the media is to the pseudoscience. That's why a lot of so-called Americans went to Vietnam to fight, because they didn't know that they was being lied to by their own government. You know, they were saying that they was, being attacked, but no, you wasn't being attacked. You know, the Vietnamese wasn't, thing. You was actually they was actually trying to incorporate corporations on their territory, and they had a way. And see, when you really understand that, I was reading a book at the library a couple months back, dealing with the opium queen. I want to hit this point real quick. You know, the opium queen and drugs and what have you, and how the opium queen and drugs in China and trade wars in China was a prominent thing, because they were selling drugs. They were benefiting off of drugs here in America, man. Them presidents and them different mobsters and shit, man. They was doing prominent. They were prominent key players in the drug trades, man. And you had your Escobars and your Fidel Castros rising up. You know, these different. They were importing them drugs to America, because America was benefiting off. They used drugs to benefit the people. Not to benefit the people of Slovakia, to try to benefit themselves off the people, man. You know, they put them into the communities. You know, the opium queen was a Vietnamese, woman who was, a prominent drug lord out there, a mobster, but at the end of the day, the real mob is the United States government, man. Them ish people, man, for real, for real. And what did they do? How did they trick the mob? They tricked the mob with taxes, man. And see, now that you under that banner of taxes, you know what I'm saying? Then you under that banner of taxes, then you got children, a lot of our Jakes that sold out to these damn devils, man. Now you looking like you looking scared, you getting scared, you looking sad, because you benefited, you, like the Lord said, you have your reward, man. You wanted to be with this man, you wanted to be, on his same type of timing. Now granted, you were able to work your way up the honest way and make money. There's nothing wrong with that. You use it for the ministry. There's nothing wrong with that. But what is the ministry? This word, this truth going out, man. And sincerity and coming back to the true name of the Lord, repenting, because repenting is an everyday thing, man. And don't get trapped by the glitz and glimmer of this thing, man, because at the end of the day, this devil is already lost, bro. We seeing you showing his true colors. You just playing cool, just like you did during the Cold War. He tricked the people into thinking he was okay, but you're not. We can see this thing coming down from a mile away. It is what it is. Yahweh Bashim Yahushua, ordained these things. Yahushua told us these things that was going to happen. Yahweh ordained it from the beginning. And, these different tools, man, has been used against Jake and has been set up from the beginning. I just want to show you that, man. And, at the end of the day, hopefully, this was a good tool for your arsenal to use to understand that, the world that you live in, we are under subjection, to we have to go to our enemies for the one of all things. But just because we have to go to an enemy for the one of all things, that shouldn't deter your mind from the reality of truth. That shouldn't, make you, that shouldn't put you in a feeble state to sell out your soul, to sell your mindset, your pretty much your values and your morals, for what this devil is offering you in this world, man. Because if you're willing to do that for a few wheats and barley, like it talks about in the woman, Jeremiah talks about a few wheats and barley, you're gonna suffer in the end, man. And I got Jake wearing tutus and dresses on camera. And they think that shit is funny. Jake making the nations mock us and they laugh at us, man. We are a laughing stock, man, as a nation. And really, the only ones really pleading out and crying out about these atrocities is us, man. The so-called, the hopeful elect, man. Because we hope to be a part of that elected number, man. Because we the only ones that's sighing and crying day and night about these things. But I just want to get into that, man. Call law Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushua, Ba'ashem, Rakabadash. Shalom to the hopeful elect, man.